to another episode where we shed light on topics most likely to keep in the dark. This is your host, Chubby, and today's elephant is a level 5 elephant. Today we're going to be talking about safety and harm reduction around the nightlife, including festivals. But we cannot start the show without a definition. What is harm reduction? According to amhsa.gov, harm reduction is a practical and transformative approach that incorporates community-driven public health strategies, including prevention, risk reduction, and health promotion, to empower people who use drugs and their families with their choice to live healthy, self-directed, and purpose-filled lives. Please welcome Brittney from Mittens and Kittens based in Michigan to share more in depth about the harm reduction and safety in the nightlife spaces. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my God, it's been so long since we last officially talked, and then we got caught up, so it was nice to officially be like, okay, let's do an episode. And I love your shirt. It's
Thank you.
so on brand of what we're talking about today. So Fearless Fam, yes, we are talking about harm reduction and the safety around like the nightlife and in festivals and things like that. So here's Brittney from Mittens and Kittens. Yeah, they're going to be telling us about what they do and what they're doing for the community. So hi, welcome.
Hi, good to have you, or good to be here, good to be had here. And I do want to do a little intro as well for the little nose that you'll see periodically popping up. This is Peanut. She is our lab dog. So yeah, she's a part of this, whether we like it or not. But it's good to be here.
Hi. We love guests. We love furry guests. So okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Mittens and Kittens.
Yeah,
and Kittens,
so
yes.
I've been doing harm reduction work for about 4 or 5 years now, whether it's been independently or through an organization or some blend of the two. Are you good? Oh, jeez. I began doing, festivals. I went to my first one when I was about 10 years old. My babysitter took me to Movement Detroit, then known as Tech Fest. It was a free festival, which it is not anymore. So I've been in the scene of nightlife and music for, like 18 years now, technically. So I've always loved that culture of festivals and like the rave community. And so, I got involved helping out with Dance Safe originally, a national nonprofit that does harm reduction across the country, across the United States. And after working with them, being a site coordinator, a chapter officer for the Michigan chapter here, working with them, the former leaders of Dance Safe Michigan founded a nonprofit called Mittens and Kittens, a Michigan-based grassroots org devoted to helping the people of Michigan in the nightlife scene be happier, healthier, more comfortable when they're in these event spaces through harm reduction.
Yeah, I feel like we don't have organizations like that, many organizations like that are willing to put in the work and actually say, okay, we're doing it for the community. We don't want anything back. We just want to do it, And I was very happy to hear that you were in sort of the same space that I was in. Like I told you before, I carry a Narcan everywhere I go just in case, because you never know. Some people accidentally overdosed, and that is, not one of the big numbers, but still is just in case, you never know, and you could help someone's life. So I'm not telling anybody to go out there and go grab Narcans and keep it in your bags, but If
You
you want to help,
probably should.
right? If you want to help someone's life, you should. I don't know if you're allowed to show how they look. Am I like,
I can't
right?
imagine why not.
Be-
Do I have?
because
I know I have
YouTube,
one on here.
oh yeah, so mine's look like this. I don't know if you're able to
Oh,
see that.
beautiful, beautiful.
Little packages. I don't know what the lights are like. Yeah, the little packages. So just, you clip it on or put it in whatever, and you're good to go. So what drew you to actually want to be a part of the night, besides going to concerts and being in that life? What actually said, or what made you think, wow, I think I want to help people in the nightlife? That's a huge like revelation there. Like, what made you be like, okay, yeah, I want to do this?
Yeah, I think I speak for a lot of people in the harm reduction space as a whole when I say that what usually draws us to this space, to this work, to this type of service, is typically losing somebody in our life to the drug war in one way or another. And for a lot of us, it's multiple people, whether that's through incarceration or criminalization, or really adverse drug effects that impacted their mental health for a long time, or their physical health, all the way to dying by an overdose. So I have been a person who uses drugs for over a decade now. I started really partying when I was about 13. I was a very experimental person who would take just about anything that was put in front of me, and I trusted the people around me implicitly. That put me in some really precarious positions, as you would imagine. I was very fortunate to make it out of that phase of my life relatively unscathed, at least physically. But the real thing that hit me was, God, what was it? Over 5 years ago, probably. And actually, the anniversary just passed on the 4th of April, so I don't know when this will be going live. But it was quite recent. A friend of mine who I was friends with during that really early time, I was 13 and I lied to them and I told them I was 16, and then, I was hanging out with some wild crowds then. But a friend from that time who I'd gotten drugs from, I'd hung out with actually quite recently. He passed away of a fentanyl overdose. He had taken what he thought was a prescription pill from the dark market, and it was not an Oxy, it was not a Vicodin, it was not a Percocet, it was not what it was labeled as, and he died. And that really, really hit me, and I started looking into, the science brain in me of like, how can this be prevented? Like, that doesn't need to happen. I know that it doesn't need to happen. And then tapping into, what is Narcan? I didn't even know at that time, and a lot of my friends didn't, and I ended up distancing from that group once I got a little bit older, because a lot of them did get into opiates in some way, whether it was pills or painkillers or downers, whatever you want to call them, or all the way to heroin, which that supply is absolutely tainted. And it was just really heartbreaking to see how many resources exist, like fentanyl testing strips, drug checking reagents, Narcan, like all of these things exist, and that death was preventable. And there are thousands of other deaths that are totally preventable. So yeah, that's what got me into it. That was a long answer, but
we love long answers, long-winded. We don't care. Here we want to share that it's not just or for the performative side of it. It's not. It's deeper than just, I'm going to do it one time and let's see how it goes. No, this is, for some people, it is more than just helping people. It is because of their experiences as well. And like I always say, like it's everything we do, it's always going to be bigger than yourself, because you never know what life you're impacting, and we try to bring as much information as we can here, because again, like you said, you didn't even know that Narcan was a thing, and it actually, believe it or not, is fresh. It came out in like 2015, approved by the FDA, so actually it's pretty new. relatively.
The
So,
injectable naloxone, though, has been,
right,
available and tested for, decades now. And it's
right.
just now becoming, I think, more acceptable for, these consumer market level things because like an EMT or someone in a hospital would have been able to administer Narcan. But at the end of the day, if somebody is truly overdosing on an opioid, that doesn't matter. Like if
Yeah.
they are not breathing and they, have overdosed, by the time then EMS or they get to a hospital, they're gonna be dead, So like the people who are around the people using drugs, whether they are drug users themselves, like these are really the first responders in terms of not just like the opioid or fentanyl crisis, but you know all drug effects that we're really starting to see now that like psychedelics are becoming decriminalized and the pharmaceutical market is wild. So yeah.
And to bring piggyback off of that, overdoses are not immediate. They depend on the person. It could be from 1 hour to 3 hours, or depends. It could be from like 1 to 8, depending on the drug that was taken. So we need to keep in mind that you are able to save this person. Again, it's not immediate, so you're able to do something about it. So to bring to that point, because it's true, like some people think, oh, they're just gonna overdose right away. Well, again, it depends on the drug, but still, it's preventable. So
Absolutely. Say one thing that we do say, in harm reduction and drug policy, which is, kind of another aspect of this work that is absolutely necessary. But every overdose death is a policy failure. It is some failure of people having the adequate support that they need in those moments, whether it is an opioid overdose or, somebody who has really long-term chronic effects of drug abuse. Yeah, it's a really broad spectrum, but at the end of the day, people need support.
it is true. Some people don't have that support, and they find themselves at the bottom, thinking that this is it. And having, grassroots organizations like Mittens and Kittens, or the other ones I'm going to share later, they just need not an easy access, but still somewhere that they could go and then they could feel comfortable and feel safe. Because some people go to these programs or these organizations, I should say, and unfortunately I've heard stories that they haven't been treated well, for God knows what reason. Each story is different, but it's not just a cut thing, it's not just black and white, it's deeper than that. My next question was, a night in a nightlife look like how does that, what do you bring to a harm reduction, like what do you call it, tell us all about that, like how does that look like?
Yeah. So it really depends. There's some constants, but the beauty of nightlife is that there is never a truly dull moment, and no night is truly the same. So what Mittens and Kittens does is we'll come to an event, we will set up a table that typically has, and I'm going to close my eyes and imagine it and just kind of go across
Let's all do
earplugs.
it.
There's so many things that we have, and yeah, the supplies really the theme behind them and everything that we do is thinking back to when we're a patron, what do we wish we had and forgot to bring with us? You know what I mean? Like everything from earplugs, candy and gum, tampons, condoms, Plan B, so emergency contraception, of course Narcan, fentanyl testing strips. Sometimes we have reagents, that's very stock basis. What else? First aid supplies, basic first aid supplies, Band-Aids, antibiotic cream, wound wash, burn gel, eye drops, Tums. So like, if you get a tummy ache, electrolytes to put in your water, drink covers, drink testing strips, or spiking agents, bottle caps, because some venues will take the lids of water bottles. Wild to me. I could go on an hour spiral about that, but we have these little rubber water bottle caps.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
They're awesome. there's other things on the other side of the table that I'm not envisioning properly, but so many things. Deodorant, deodorant cream, pregnancy tests, like the amount of things that we have are just as all-encompassing as we possibly can be. And whenever somebody comes to the table and says like, oh my gosh, do you have XYZ? And if we say no, we write it down and we, use the funds that we have to get that supply to make sure that we never have to say no again. Within
Right.
reason, of course.
Right.
But
Can be a crazy item.
yeah, absolutely. And, we also have safer use tools. So things like straws, spoons, plastic razors, clean surfaces, needleless syringes, vitamin E swabs and suppositories. Soon, hopefully, to have like smoking kits to support all of the different routes of administration from, insufflation or snorting to boofing, which is rectally, if listeners don't know, all the way to smoking or inhaling different substances.
To make a clarification to people listening to this, explain the reason why these items, at least the last ones, are in your table. Because I could hear everybody now. Why? Like the whys as to, so explain.
Absolutely. So this is, I think, one of the most hot button items that we do carry. The Narcan is still, there's some people who think, why do you carry this? You are enabling drug use. We are not enabling drug use, I promise you, especially in the music festival and nightlife spaces. People are doing substances. This is a piece of the fabric of this culture. There is a movement towards, abstinent or sober raving. Love that. Love to see it. But there's a lot of people who aren't. So we offer these types of tools specifically to reduce the harm associated with current popular use behaviors, for lack of better terms. So if you watch a movie, for example, if you see somebody, breaking up a line and snorting it, right? If we're talking in culture and media, they will typically be using a credit card to be doing that, maybe on a surface in a bathroom, on a counter, or on the toilet paper roll top, right?
Yeah,
because
all the dirty.
Absolutely. And drug use really is so pushed off into the shadows, into the corners, that people are forced to use in these types of settings that are genuinely unhygienic. You see them roll up a dollar bill and, do that. Or, for example, people who inject drugs, which that's not something we see in our space. And, the legal loopholes, essentially, that you have to kind of jump through in order to carry syringes with needles is a little bit greater. And since that's not a population we serve, we let SSPs, the safe syringe providers, do that work, and we can do referrals to those if that is a route people are using. But we focus specifically on these ones because, again, nightlife is kind of grimy. That's what we love about it, right? Underground Detroit techno, that is our culture here. However, our drug use doesn't have to be dirty. Hepatitis can live outside of the body for 36 days. Not hours, days. That is such a long time that, surfaces like a dollar bill, a credit card that you put in a machine that thousands of other people have put their hands on their card and put in that machine.
I just feel it, yeah.
Yes. As somebody who, my background initially was in biology. I went to school for biology. I have my degree in biology. I studied micro, so like microbes, bacteria, cell and molecular biology. So I come from that space where like aseptic technique when you are handling these things is everything. And I just see people engaging in behaviors that I'm like, that is absolutely disgusting. that is very, very, you know what I mean? So we carry these things to promote everybody to have the resources and tools to consume what they already have in hand. We're not, referring people on how to get substances. We think that a safe supply is absolutely necessary, and I would love for people to be able to, get a referral to go purchase something safe that they know is coming from a reputable source. But we don't do that. That's not what we do. But if people have substances that they are already planning to consume, we are going to equip you as well as possible with the tools, resources, and education. That's one of the biggest pieces that we do. I mean, the supplies are one thing, but the conversations that we have are really the key feature of the work that we do. You know, the tangible things come secondary, really. So, does that answer that question? I know that there are some people who are very adamantly against safer use
Yeah.
supplies.
To me, it answered the question because, again, they're going to use it already. So it's not like you can do anything about it. But what you can do is supply something for them to use it in a safer way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, the dirty counters, the X, Y, and Z, the dirty needles, of this, because they are going to use it regardless. I don't want to use the word desperate, but because they're a user, they're going to use it regardless whether, and they're going to get it however, right?
Yeah.
So again, you're bringing a safer alternative for them to still use it. Okay, you're going to use it, but do it the right way, right?
The key feature here really is like route of administration and having conversations surrounding that.
Exactly.
Because I left one key point out. Nasal sprayers is another thing that we equip. So like the little nasal spritzers that have saline in them for volumetric dosing. This is something that a lot of people don't even consider, but there's a lot of people doing nose drugs, I'll tell you that. And they see this type of tool where they can dissolve, you know, whatever it is that they plan to consume in a container. They can know exactly how much liquid is going in there, how much powder is going in there, how much comes out in one spray, and they can be much more mindful and precise in their dosing and much lower the chances of them having, you know, these adverse effects of taking too much or using a tool that isn't a precise measurement. And people, you know, really getting floored sometimes because they don't know how much they're dosing with. So route of administration and the ability to, you know, at least more accurately dose substances, because the poison really is in the dose, right? So yeah, there's a lot to this stuff, and we love having these conversations because some people just genuinely don't know that these different resources exist, or that, you know, diseases can be spread by sharing tools with your friends. You know, I've been to festivals where disease outbreaks were a thing, you know, and post-COVID, like the whoop flu, as they call it, you know, people are on lot for 3, 4, 5 or more days. You know, it's dusty, it's dry, it's hot, it's humid, people aren't washing their hands, people are touching everything, and then they're, you know, sharing spoons, you know, and it's just, it's, from a public health standpoint, it really is a tool to kind of combat the spread of disease transmission, because in a post-COVID world, we know better, you know.